She snatched my newborn straight out of my wife's arms. That's how it started. One second, my wife was standing on our porch, rocking our baby, and the next, this HOA Karen lunged forward, grabbed our child, and screamed, "You don't deserve to raise a baby in my neighborhood." My wife froze. I didn't. I moved so fast, Karen stumbled back, clutching my newborn like she had some sort of right. "Give him back." My voice dropped low, the kind of low I hadn't used since deployment. Karen shook her head, eyes wild. "The HOA has decided your wife is unfit. I'll be taking the baby for evaluation. New rule, effective today." She waved a paper with trembling hands. "You're required to hand him over." My wife started crying, begging, "Please don't hurt him. Please give him back." But Karen just smiled, that sick, satisfied smile people get when they think they finally have power over someone. "You're new here," she said. "This community follows my rules. And rule number 1, no unstable mothers. I saw your wife crying yesterday. That's enough for removal." She hugged my newborn closer, like he was a prop she owned. My fists tightened, my breathing slowed. Every instinct I had trained for years kicked in, but I forced myself not to move too fast. "Karen," I said quietly, "that's kidnapping." She didn't blink. "Call it what you want. HOA has authority, and if you lay one hand on me, I'll tell the police you attacked a community official. You'll lose the baby for good." My wife collapsed to her knees, shaking. Karen turned around like she was about to walk off with my son. That's when everything inside me went dead silent. She had no idea who she was threatening. No idea who she just stole from. No idea that I spent years rescuing kidnapped children in hostile zones. And absolutely no idea that I was a Navy SEAL. I stepped off the porch, slow and controlled. "Karen," I said. She turned. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life."
Karen froze for a second when she heard my tone, like her brain finally registered something was wrong. But instead of backing off, she doubled down. She clutched my newborn tighter and hissed, "Don't take that tone with me. I can have you removed from this property. I've done it before." Removed? She said it like she was the sheriff of the whole world. I took one slow step closer. She instantly jerked back and yelled, "Stay where you are. If you come any closer, I'm calling CPS and reporting both of you. I'll say your baby was in danger." My wife screamed, "Please give him back." But Karen kept talking like she enjoyed every second. "You people think you can move into this community without following my rules? This is my neighborhood. I run it. And if I say this child needs to be taken for inspection, then he goes." A few neighbors peeked through their blinds, but not one stepped outside. She had terrorized them too. Karen walked backward down the driveway, still holding my baby, saying, "I'll take him to the HOA office. Maybe the board will let you see him in a few days, if they think you're fit." My wife sobbed harder. She reached for our son, but I gently held her back. Not because I didn't want her to fight, but because I seen what Karen was trying to do, push us into reacting so she could twist the story later. Classic bully tactic. "Listen to me," I whispered to my wife. "He's okay. I'm getting him back in seconds." Karen overheard and burst into laughter. "In seconds? You really think you're scaring me? I already called someone with real authority." She waved her phone. "He'll be here any minute." A black SUV suddenly rolled up the street. Slow, tinted windows, engine rumbling. Karen lifted her chin proudly. "There he is, my enforcement partner. And trust me, he doesn't play." My wife gasped. Even I felt my pulse rise for a second. Because whoever was inside that SUV, Karen clearly thought he was powerful enough to back her up. The vehicle stopped right in front of our driveway. The door opened. Karen smirked at me over my newborn's head. "Let's see who has authority now." But when the man stepped out, her smile instantly cracked. Because she wasn't expecting him. And neither was I. And the moment our eyes met, I saw recognition flash across his face. He knew exactly who I was. And suddenly, Karen realized she'd dragged the wrong man into this mess.
The man stepped out slowly, boots solid on the pavement, eyes scanning the scene like he'd walked into a battlefield. Karen lifted her chin proudly, still clutching my baby like a trophy. "There you are," she shouted. "Take the child. The parents are resisting HOA inspection." But the man didn't even look at her. His gaze locked on me, then widened. "No way," he whispered. Karen frowned. "What are you doing? Take the baby from her so we can file the report." He ignored her completely and took 2 steps toward me, face going pale. "Sir, I didn't know it was you." Karen's jaw dropped. "Sir," she repeated, "he's a random new neighbor. You work for me. I outrank—" He raised a hand, silencing her. "Ma'am, I don't work for the HOA. I told you that twice. I'm private security, not law enforcement. I only agreed to help after you claimed a child was in danger." Karen blinked fast, confused. "That's what I said. The mother is unstable and—" He looked at my wife, crying and shaking, and his whole expression shifted to disgust. "She looks terrified, not unstable," he snapped. Then he turned to me again, lowering his voice. "I didn't know you lived here. We served on the same extraction team in Fallujah, SEAL Team 4. You saved my life." Karen's jaw dropped so wide it could have caught flies. My wife stared, speechless, and I just nodded. He swallowed hard. "What do you need me to do?" Karen sputtered. "What are you talking about? Take the baby from me. I'm the HOA coordinator. This man is nothing." The security guy finally turned to her with a look she'd never seen before. "Ma'am, you're holding a newborn that doesn't belong to you. That's felony kidnapping." Karen's face drained of color. Kidnapping? No, this is HOA business. The rules say there are no HOA rules that allow you to seize a neighbor's child, ever. She shook her head violently and backed up. No, you don't understand. I'm in charge here. I run this place. Everyone listens to me. Everyone. You can't take his side." He stepped closer, calm but firm. "Give the baby back, now." Karen's hands shook. "No! I'll be arrested! I'll lose everything! I'm not giving him back until—" I stepped forward. She froze when she saw my eyes. "Karen," I said quietly, "this ends now." She clutched the baby tighter, then suddenly spun around, like she was going to run. But she only made it 2 steps before the security officer moved faster than she ever expected, blocking her path. "No." He said, "You're done." Karen stared at both of us, trapped, cornered, realizing what she just started. And that's when she whispered the stupidest, boldest sentence she could have chosen. "If you take this baby from me, I'm going to call someone much bigger than you." She had no idea I already knew who she meant. And that was the real problem. Because the person she was threatening to call was the last man in this country who should ever get involved. And the moment she dialed his number, the real storm began.
Karen's fingers trembled as she dialed the number, her breath coming out in sharp little bursts. She kept glancing at me, like she expected me to panic, but I just stood there, perfectly still. She had no idea that stillness was the biggest warning sign she could have noticed. When the call connected, her voice suddenly snapped into that fake professional tone she loved so much. "Hi, it's me. We have a situation, a major one. I need you here right now. Yes, bring your badge." Badge. My wife's nails dug into my arm. The security officer's eyes flicked to mine in concern. Karen wasn't calling another HOA member, or a neighbor, or even a regular cop.
She was calling him. The one man I hoped I'd never cross paths with again. The SUV security guy whispered, "Sir, is she calling who I think she's calling?" I didn't answer, because Karen was still talking loudly on the phone. "Yes, he's refusing HOA order. His wife is unstable. The baby is at risk. Yes, I have the child right now." She paused, then added in a low voice, "Just come. You outrank everyone here." She hung up and smirked like she had just summoned the president himself. "You two are done," she said, pulling my baby closer. "When he arrives, he'll shut you down, and you," she pointed a shaking finger at me, "you won't act tough anymore." My wife whispered, terrified, "Who is she calling?" Before I could answer, the private security guy spoke quietly. "There's a sheriff in this county who, let's just say, plays dirty. Karen thinks he works for her because he lets her report complaints without proof." My wife's breath hitched. "Is he dangerous?" The man looked at me. We both knew the truth. Dangerous didn't even begin to cover it. He hates military guys, especially SEALs. Karen, hearing that, burst into mocking laughter. "Oh, please, like this man is a Navy SEAL," she scoffed. "He's just pretending to be someone. When the sheriff gets here, he'll put both of you in handcuffs and take the baby for emergency custody." She nodded to herself like she already won. "He listens to me," she whispered, almost giddy. "He does whatever I say." And then, in the distance, we heard it. A siren. Low at first, then louder, closer, until red and blue lights flickered at the far end of the street. Karen's smile stretched unnaturally wide. "There he is," she said. "Now let's see who's in charge." But something about the siren felt off. Too fast, too sharp, too aggressive for a simple neighbor dispute. The security officer muttered, "Sir, that's not a normal unit. That's his personal car." My wife grabbed my arm. "What's going to happen?" I looked at the flashing lights drawing nearer. "He's not coming to talk. He's coming to show force." Karen straightened her shoulders proudly. "Good. Someone finally knows my worth." But when that sheriff car screeched to a stop and the man stepped out, Karen's confidence shattered instantly. Because the sheriff didn't look at her, not once. He walked straight towards me, slow, deliberate, eyes cold. Then he stopped 2 feet away and said the last thing Karen expected to hear. "Why didn't you tell me you were back, Commander?"
Karen's face twisted in pure confusion. What?" she muttered, looking between us like her brain couldn't process the word. The sheriff kept his eyes on me, jaw tight, shoulders squared, not like a man greeting an enemy, but a man greeting someone he owed. He removed his sunglasses slowly. "Commander," he said again, voice low, "I thought you were overseas." Karen snapped out of her daze. "Hold on, what are you doing? You're supposed to take the baby from them. He attacked me. His wife is unstable. I told you on the phone." The sheriff didn't even look at her. He just took one small step closer to me. "I heard you moved states," he said quietly. "Didn't think it was here." The security officer stiffened beside us. My wife tightened her grip on my arm. Karen stumped closer, face red. "Sheriff, do your job. Take the baby. I gave you a direct HOA order." Finally, the sheriff turned to her, painfully slow, and the look he gave her could have frozen fire. "Ma'am," he said, voice flat, "you don't give me orders." "Yes, I do. I run this neighborhood. I make the rules." He raised an eyebrow.
The HOA doesn't outrank federal command. And this man, he pointed at me, is the highest-ranked SEAL officer I've ever had the honor of serving under. Karen blinked like someone had slapped her. What? The sheriff continued, tone stiff with old respect. He led the Joint Task Force in Syria. He trained half the tactical units in this state. If he wanted this entire neighborhood evacuated, I'd do it without a question. My wife let out a shaky breath. The security guard straightened proudly. And Karen? She stumbled backward like her legs had forgotten how to work. No, you don't understand. He's lying. He's pretending. He's scaring you. The sheriff turned his full attention on her. What I don't understand, he said slowly, is why you're holding a newborn that isn't yours. Karen panicked. It's HOA inspection. There is no such thing. I created the rule, she blurted. He stepped closer, voice dropping. You created a rule that allows you to take a baby from a crying mother? Karen swallowed hard. That's kidnapping, ma'am. Real, legal kidnapping. Her breathing went uneven. No, I was helping. I was protecting the community. I didn't know who he was. I didn't know. That's the problem, the sheriff said. You never know who you're talking to. Karen clutched my newborn tighter, shaking now, not with power, but fear. I can't give him back, she whispered, voice cracking. If I do, I'll be arrested. The sheriff's tone hardened. You're already arrested. Karen shattered. No, please. I didn't mean. I thought I had authority. The sheriff extended his hands toward my baby. Give the child back. Now. Karen backed away, tears streaking down her face. Please, I can't go to jail. Not again. Again? The sheriff repeated, eyes narrowing. Karen froze. My wife gasped. I felt the entire situation shift in an instant. The sheriff stepped closer. What did you just say? Karen tried to cover her mouth, but too late. The sheriff exhaled sharply. I knew your name sounded familiar. Karen shook her head violently. Please don't. The sheriff stared at her like he was seeing a ghost he hoped he'd never meet again. You're the same woman who impersonated a state officer in Pine County. His voice darkened. You were banned from ever holding any position of authority. Karen's knees buckled. The private security guard whispered, She did what? The sheriff didn't take his eyes off her. You weren't a coordinator here. You lied your way into the HOA. And then he added the line that made Karen drop the baby carrier in shock. You're not even a resident of this neighborhood.
Karen's mouth fell open like the world just slipped out from under her. Not a resident? My wife whispered, stunned. The sheriff folded his arms, voice cold and steady. She doesn't own a house here, doesn't rent, doesn't even have a guest permit. She's been squatting in an empty property that's under bank foreclosure. The security officer blinked. You mean she's been bossing everyone around while she doesn't even live here? Karen shook her head wildly, backing up like a trapped animal. That's not true. I'd been managing this neighborhood for months. The board listens to me. The sheriff stared her down. There is no board. He let the words hang, sharp, heavy. Karen froze. What do you mean? This entire neighborhood's HOA was dissolved 2 years ago, legally, publicly. Then his voice dropped even lower. Every notice you posted, fake. Every fine you wrote, fake. Every threat you made, illegal. My wife covered her mouth in shock. Karen wasn't just abusive. She wasn't just entitled. She was operating a full-blown fantasy dictatorship over people too scared to push back. The sheriff stepped closer. You've broken at least 5 state laws, and now kidnapping. Karen's eyes filled with panic, and she suddenly did something none of us expected. She bolted, fast, still holding my newborn. My heart dropped, but training kicked in before fear could even surface. The private security guard sprinted to block her from the left. The sheriff moved right, and I went straight toward her. Karen ran down the street screaming, "He's not going back to you! You'll ruin everything! He's my proof!" Proof of what? What was she talking about? She twisted between two parked cars, trying to escape through a narrow space, but I reached her before she could slip through. She spun around, clutching my newborn protectively, eyes shaking with desperation. "He's safer with me! You don't understand! They're watching! They're always watching!" I raised my hand slowly. "Karen, who's watching?" Her voice cracked. "The people I work for!" The sheriff and security guard exchanged fast glances. I stepped closer. "Who did you call before us? Who were you talking about?" She shook violently, whispering, "I can't say! They'll kill me!" My gut tightened. My wife's voice trembled behind me. "What is she talking about?" Karen pressed her back against a car, gripping my newborn like he was evidence. "I didn't want to take the baby. I had to. They said newborns are part of the program. They told me to find one. They're coming!" The street went silent. The sheriff grabbed his radio. "Commander, we need to get your family inside, right now." Karen took a shaky step back. "They're already on their way! You can't stop them!" Her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, and her face drained of all color. "No! No, please!" she begged, staring at whoever was calling. The sheriff reached for his gun. The security guard shifted into combat stance. I stepped closer, voice calm and steady. "Karen, hand me my son." She didn't move. She just stared at the buzzing phone. Then, with a trembling voice, she said the four words that made everyone freeze. "They found the target."
Karen's phone slipped from her hand and hit the asphalt with a sharp crack, but she didn't even flinch. She just stared at the screen like the message itself had reached through her skull and grabbed her spine. The target," my wife whispered, holding her breath. Karen's voice broke into a whisper so thin it almost disappeared. "They're coming for the baby. They tracked him. They tracked all newborns in the area. I didn't want to, but they made me mark him. They made me register him." "Register? Mark?" My stomach tightened. The sheriff stepped forward. "Who made you?" he demanded. "Karen, answer me." She shook her head violently. "I can't. If I say their name, they'll know. They always know." Then she looked right at me, eyes huge, terrified, almost pleading. "You don't understand who you're fighting!" I stepped closer anyway, not fast, not aggressive, just steady, controlled. "I give me my son," I said quietly. Her breath hitched. "They told me not to give him back, not to anyone. They said they're taking him tonight. The vehicle is already near." Right on cue, a low rumble echoed from the far end of the neighborhood. Not police, not sheriff, a heavier engine. Slow, deliberate, too deliberate. The sheriff stiffened. "That's not one of ours." The security officer reached for the weapon on his belt and whispered into it. "Sir, that's a tactical engine." My wife grabbed my arm, whispering, "What's happening? Who's coming?" I didn't answer, because I already recognized the sound. It wasn't from law enforcement. It wasn't from any local agency. It was military grade, but not American. Karen curled in on herself like the noise physically hurt her. "They're early! Oh God, they're early! They're not supposed to arrive until midnight!" The rumble grew louder, closer, turning the quiet suburban street into something that felt like a war zone under the surface. The sheriff spoke carefully. "Commander, whoever this is, they're not part of any state or federal unit." I nodded once. "I know." The engine cut suddenly, a hard, unnatural silence filling the street. Karen squeezed her eyes shut. "I hate this job. I never wanted to do this. I only followed orders because they said they'd clear my record." I stepped forward again. "Karen, hand me the baby. You don't need to protect them anymore." She finally looked at me, really looked. And it was the first time she didn't look like a tyrant, but like a terrified pawn who was way in over her head. Her voice cracked. "They said your baby was special. They said he matched something in their system." "Matched what?" my wife gasped. Before Karen could answer, a sharp metallic click echoed from down the street, like a heavy door unlocking. The sheriff drew his gun. The security officer pulled a comm device from his belt and whispered into it. I positioned myself between my wife and the sound. And then, a dark armored van rolled into view. No markings, no plates, windows blacked out, moving slow enough to feel intentional. Karen's knees buckled. "That's them!" The sheriff swore under his breath. "Commander, this isn't normal. This is organized." My wife whispered, "What do they want with our baby?" I didn't take my eyes off the van. Something they're never getting. Karen hugged the baby once more, then held him out toward me with shaking hands. "Take him! I'm done! I'm done with them!" I grabbed my son, steady, secure, protective, relief punching a hole straight through my chest. But the moment he touched my arms, the van's engine roared again. Then a voice crackled through an external speaker. "Commander, step away from the child." My wife froze. The sheriff raised his gun. The security officer positioned himself behind me. And Karen collapsed to the ground, sobbing. The voice came again, calm, controlled, chilling. "We've been looking for that baby since the moment he was born." And then, after a tense pause, "And we're taking him tonight."
The moment that voice echoed across the street, everything inside me went still. Not scared, not confused, just focused. That calm, deadly focus I hoped I would never need again. My wife whispered, "They can't take him. They can't." I could feel her shaking behind me. The sheriff leaned close, voice low. "Commander, you say the word. I'm with you." The armored van door slid open with a heavy metallic slam. Two figures stepped out, full tactical gear, unmarked uniforms, visors black as oil. Not police, not government, not anyone official. These were the kind of contractors who answered to money, not laws. One of them lifted a scanner that beeped instantly when it pointed toward my baby. "There," he said. "Confirmed. The child's biosignature matches the registry." My wife grabbed my arm, tears spilling. "Why are they scanning our baby? What registry?" The man took one step forward. "We don't want trouble," he said calmly. "But we will take the infant. Orders are orders." I shifted my grip on my son, every muscle tightening. "Whose orders?" He paused for a moment too long. Then, "Classified." The sheriff scoffed. "Classified. In a neighborhood, you clowns don't even have badges." The second man raised a weapon. Not a gun, but something far quieter, far more dangerous. The sheriff pulled his gun. The security officer squared up. My wife held her breath like one scream might trigger a war. Karen lay on the ground sobbing. "I told them you wouldn't hand him over. I warned them. You don't understand. They're everywhere." The first man ignored her and pointed the scanner again. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "Commander, we know who you are. We know what you've done, and we know you're capable of resisting. So here's the only warning you get. Step away from the child." I shook my head slowly. "You want my son?" I asked. A beat of silence. "Yes," the man answered. I stepped forward. "Then you're going to have to take him from a Navy SEAL commander. And die trying." The first man hesitated just for a second. They weren't expecting resistance. They were expecting fear. Wrong house, wrong family, wrong father. The second man lifted his weapon. But before he could aim, the sheriff fired a warning shot into the pavement.
"Back up!" he yelled. "This is county jurisdiction. You're trespassing." The armed contractor paused. Then he smiled behind his visor. "Sheriff, you're already bought." The sheriff stiffened. "What did you just say?" The first man turned his head slightly. "Your office already approved this request. Your captain signed the warrant." My wife gasped. The sheriff's jaw dropped. He whispered, "That's impossible." The man continued, calm and deadly. "The child is part of a flagged medical profile collected from the hospital. Your captain authorized transfer at 0400 hours. My wife broke. No, that can't be true. Our baby is healthy. He's perfect." The man nodded politely. "Exactly." My fists clenched harder around my son. "What does that mean?" "It means," the contractor stated, stepping forward, "it means he's rare, and rare is valuable." That was it. That was the line. I handed my son to my wife. "Go inside," I murmured. "Don't look back." "No," she cried. "I'm not leaving you." I leaned my forehead against hers. "I'll be right behind you." The sheriff stepped beside me. The private security guy stepped to my other side. 3 men against 2 armored operators. Simple math, but math had never scared me. The contractor lifted the weapon again. "Commander, last warning." I didn't move. I didn't blink. I simply whispered, "You made the same mistake Karen did." They tilted their heads slightly. "You thought I was alone." Lights snapped on from 3 houses at once, neighbors stepping out with phones, cameras, porch lights blinding the contractors, recording everything. The sheriff grinned. "You picked the wrong night, boys." The first contractor cursed under his breath. Too late. Because the moment they hesitated, the moment they tried to decide whether to shoot or flee, I moved. Fast. Too fast for them to react. I disarmed the first man in 2 motions, slammed him against the van, and dropped him to the pavement before his partner even understood what was happening. The second raised his weapon, and the sheriff fired, blowing it clean out of his hand. The private security officer tackled him to the ground. Within seconds, both contractors were disarmed, both immobilized, both screaming for someone to abort mission. Karen watched, shaking, whispering, "They're gonna come back! They're gonna come back!" I walked to her slowly. "No," I said. "They're not." Because behind the armored van, sirens flooded the night. Real police, state units. Back up, the sheriff had secretly called the moment the van turned the corner. The contractors were dragged away, yelling about protocols and classified orders. But no one listened. Karen was cuffed next, still crying, still terrified. She looked up at me one last time. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I thought they would protect me." I shook my head. "You picked the wrong side." My wife reached me then, holding our baby tight against her chest, crying into my shoulder as I finally wrapped my arms around them both. The sheriff exhaled in relief. "Commander, this whole county owes you." I looked at my son. Safe, warm, breathing against my chest. I said softly, "No, I only care about protecting them." The sheriff nodded. "And you did." As the last of the flashing lights faded and the night finally settled, my wife whispered, "Are we safe now?" I kissed our son's head. "Yes," I said, "because I'm never letting anyone come near my family again."